Hearing Charlie's analysis, Isaac couldn't help but nodded and said, "This thing is really strange. Normally, only a fool will run into the building when he is chased. Normal people should think about it. They will run away quickly, as far as possible." Charlie snorted and said, "Since Shred is a long-run a-level wanted criminal, it is absolutely impossible for him to commit such a low-level mistake. Otherwise, he must have been arrested a long time ago, so I speculate that the greatest possibility is, Shred deliberately wants to enter the treasure pavilion." Intentionally entered the treasures pavilion? Isaac couldn't help but muttered, and asked in confusion, "What will he do in treasures pavilion?" "There is no big auction in treasures pavilion today. Today, it is a judicial auction, and everything is sold. For big things like houses and cars, there is no point in grabbing these things." Charlie smiled and said, "Don't forget, he was chased into the treasure pavilion by the police, or that he deliberately pretended to be chased into the treasure pavilion by the police, so it is unlikely that he was going to the treasure pavilion." Isaac asked puzzledly, "Master, if he didn't run for things, then what was he running for?" Charlie snorted coldly, "Since it's not running towards things, it must be running towards people." "Running for people?" "He is an A-level wanted criminal. Once he is found out, he is likely to be caught or even killed. Who would be running for such a big risk?" Charlie said earnestly, "Today, there should be 5 people with the highest value. One is me, one is you, one is Bao Fugi, and the remaining 2 are Ms. Leona Du and Ziyu Su. Who do you think he is running for?" Isaac thought for a while, and said seriously, "It's a little less likely to run towards the 2 of us. After all, we have already come out and he just went in. Then there is a high probability that these 3 people will remain." As he said, he muttered again, "Possibility of wealth is slightly greater. After all, he is quite famous in Oruz Hill. Although he is not worth as much as Miss Warnya from the Song family, and not as good as Chingang, but at least he has billions of assets. As for Leona and Ziyu, I think the possibility is a little bit smaller. Like the Wade family, the Su family is one of the top families in the country. The protection of family members is very in place. There is no media outlet. They dare to expose their member information without the consent of these big families. Therefore, even the richest man in Oruz Hill, it is very difficult to figure out the information about the members of the Su family, let alone for Shred, a wanted criminal." Charlie frowned and said, "You didn't understand the core of this incident. The core of this incident is that Shred risked his life to act in a play. It is impossible for him to act in a play just to find treasure, wealth, or ask the Su family for some money. I think there is a high probability that there is a conspiracy." "Conspiracy?" Isaac was a little puzzled and said, "Master, you said there was a conspiracy. Is it because the enemy of the Su family wants to deal with the mother and daughter of the Su family? Or the rich and wealthy enemy wants to use Shred's hand to kill him?" Charlie nodded. "I think it's all possible. What's going on? We still need to see how this matter develops in the future." Isaac said, "This Shred wants a human shield to escape. I don't know if he can escape this time." Charlie smiled and said, "Whether he can escape depends on whether there is anyone behind him to help. Otherwise, with his own ability, making such a big disturbance, and warn you to escape from birth, it is simply a dream." Speaking of this, Charlie sneered. However, since he dared to play so big, someone must help from behind. Soon, Isaac drove to Treasure's Pavilion. When approaching the Treasure Pavilion, Charlie had already pulled out his mouth to put on the cover, so as not to cause too much attention and expose himself. At this time, the Treasure's Pavilion was surrounded by a large number of police officers and police vehicles, and even wheeled armored vehicles dedicated to anti-terrorism were dispatched. The several roads close to Treasure's Pavilion have all been blocked by the police, and a large number of police forces have even been deployed to evacuate the crowd. As soon as Isaac's Rolls-Royce arrived at a blocked intersection, a middle-aged man hurried over and greeted Isaac through the window. Isaac put down the car window and said, "Officer. The one called is the head of the Oruz Hill Police, Ross. They are already waiting for this Rolls-Royce with eagerness." Although Isaac's speed is also very fast, the situation inside is really critical and important. Therefore, he hurriedly said, Mr. Isaac, thank goodness you are finally here. Do you think it is convenient for you to drive in? If you think it to be convenient, you can directly help drive the car to the main entrance of the treasure pavilion. If it is not convenient for you, leave this car to me, and I will drive in. Isaac turned around and asked Charlie in a low voice, Mr. Wade, what do you say? Charlie also wanted to go in to see what the situation was, and said, Go straight in. Isaac said to Ross, Officer, I will just drive in, okay. Ross nodded, and hurriedly asked again, Mr. Isaac, is your car full of gas? That Shred asked for full gas. If you don't think so, I will arrange for someone to pump from another car. Come in a little bit. Isaac glanced at the oil meter and said, I am basically full. That's good. Ross breathed a sigh of relief and hurriedly said, You drive directly to the gate of Treasure's Pavilion, but don't get too close. When the time comes, park the car, leave the key in the car, and withdraw quickly. This is important for your safety. Okay. Isaac nodded. At this time, Ross immediately let people open the set roadblock and let Isaac's Rolls-Royce pass. When Isaac's car drove into the Treasure's Pavilion, he parked the car at a distance of 5 or 6 meters from the door. Afterwards, Isaac said to Charlie, Master, let's get off the car. Okay, Charlie said, but you will say hello to the old man later, and see if we can stay on the scene to see the development of the situation. Don't get out of the car and drive us all outside the isolation ring. Isaac hurriedly said, This problem is not big, let me tell him. Charlie nodded. Okay, get off the bus. Afterwards, the two immediately opened the door and got out of the car. At this moment, Shred inside saw the Rolls-Royce coming, and immediately rushed to the door, holding the gun in one hand and the detonating switch in the other, shouting, You open all the doors, open the trunk and let me check if there is anything hidden inside. Isaac immediately opened all the car doors so that Shred could see the car and shouted, It were the two of us in the car just now. Now there is nothing. Can you see anything? Shred continued to shout, Where is the trunk? Open the trunk too. Isaac replied, Okay, I'll open it now. After speaking, quickly opened the trunk again. Isaac owns a number of Rolls-Royces, although they are all equipped by the Wade family, but he has the right to use and decide. The car he drove today was specially reserved to receive Charlie, and every time he used this car, he drove it himself. Only when Charlie needed it would he drive this car out, so this car's backup there are no personal belongings in the box. After opening, there is nothing in the trunk. Shred naturally looked at it at a glance. Then he nodded in satisfaction, looked up and down Charlie and Isaac, and said coldly, Don't turn off the car, leave the keys, you two can go.